Welcome to Level Up Tribes. Level Up Tribes provides resources to help you attain the necessary resources to level up your mind, body, and soul and realize your full potential. It is about exploring, learning, providing you with the tools from the experts for you to create a better version of yourself. I am your host, AgnesGoodwine, and welcome, Tribes. I am so honored to have you on the show, and thank you so much for, coming on and talking about a topic that is actually needed right now.
Yeah.
And yes, and so thank you for sharing space with me, Reverend Karen Russo. And Karen is on the forefront of money conversations based on values, spirituality, empowerment, and professional success. And you're right here in the Valley.
Yes, indeed.
And that's amazing. I love it. And so, yes, welcome to Level Up Tribes podcast. And let's dive, right in and talk about how you got involved with the money momentum coaching before we discuss our topic of today, which is spiritual and financial resilience.
Yes. Well, I so appreciate you having me, and I so appreciate the work that you're doing. I checked out your podcast go from the, the body and the practical and the energy, and then the, metaphysical. It's really nice to see that range. So
thank you.
Yeah. So I got here by doing exactly that. Like my whole life is about how to bring things together that seem to be separate. So the spiritual and the material, the masculine and the feminine, money and God, how do those things go together? So I got here, I started my business journey, my money business journey, because I grew up in a really, in many ways, kind of a typical middle-class family where my dad was first-generation Italian-American, first of his family to go to any kind of upper-level schooling. And he was really sensible about money. So he was fair and worked hard, and he taught us that if you kids went to school and worked hard, then things could work out for you. And that basis was a good foundation in today's economic world.
Yes.
Yeah. I saw my parents with competent teamwork around money. I mean, if we were to come out of it a little bit today, you would ask things about, privilege and opportunity and other factors that were going on there that I wasn't really aware of. Yes. But I did have at least this kind of, her mother came up in New York, and her father was a teacher and her mother was a nurse. So my mother became a teacher and her sister's a nurse. So it's kind of that sort of background, but it did give a level of just competence. And then I came out of the womb, this will age me here, pointing to a blackboard, today it's a PowerPoint, or whatever. But, I was always a teacher. And as I came up, I had that kind of functional hard work, competence thing. But at the same time, when I was a teenager, I started to have a challenge with my own drinking, my own alcoholism. And we could do a whole other podcast on all those challenges. But to suffice it to say, it led me, by the time I was in my 20s, I still had a functioning job, but I had pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. And so that led me to find a power greater than myself. So of course, the worst thing in my life led to the best thing of my life. And that's where I had the spiritual awakening. Wow. And that's where I met people that we all know at the Agape Center in Los Angeles. And that was in, early 1990s. I moved into a support group for my recovery, and then found my spiritual awakening. And so years pass, and I have all this corporate and training and banking and business background, and I have this spiritual study and becoming a counselor and a minister. And then 10, 12 years ago, I said, how does money come together with spirituality? And that's where the Money Keys and this work was born.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, Karen, please explain to us, about what is spiritual and financial resilience? What does that mean?
The way I think about resilience is an interesting word, isn't it? So I think about it like flexible, but also being responsive. Like it has that, if you're resilient, you're not pretending it's not happening. So you're able to respond, but you're also able to be flexible. And then I also think there's something in resilience. It's got that feminine quality, which is strength, which is different than power.
Mm.
So think about it, power has more of the masculine kind of action, decision, choice, whereas strength like withstands. Strength is more fierce. Strength is more long haul.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I feel like resilience is. Resilience is the capacity to be in the present moment, be real with it, and to be strong and we're going to talk about the spiritual aspect, tune into something larger and then be able to withstand. And
Yes.
so spiritually, it's being able to remember spiritual truth in a challenging moment. Financial resilience, it's the capacity to feel unafraid. So to feel satisfied, to be able to feel grateful and appreciative for what we do have, and to be able to be a really excellent steward of today's resources, and to be innovative and creative about how to make it to whether it's a next week, next month, next year, whether it's for yourself, your family, your business, the larger economy, whatever you're responsible for, that you have financial resilience is the ability not just to have a lot of money, but to have enough creativity and wisdom to be able to financially flow with what's happening.
Yes. And it's the best time to kind of sit back and kind of stop and reflect on both.
Yeah.
On both. If you don't have a spiritual foundation to get you through this moment, that's the first step, is finding that, whatever that looks like for anyone out there in regards to the spirituality. And then with the finance, that's a tough one. I've known a lot of people that have gotten furloughs already, and we're
Yeah.
only 3 weeks in.
Well, this is, right now, I think I heard a number. So we're recording this the beginning of
Yes.
April 2020. And I heard a number of, 10 million applying for unemployment. And that just shot right up. And it's true that for many people, they just don't have the economic reserves, just don't have financial liquidity, cash in the bank to withstand sudden job loss and health bills that might come up, and challenges with getting another job or position, and with parents or family or other needs as well. Can really be
Yes.
tough.
Yes. For some of us that were not prepared for something like this, what tools can you share with us that can help us blend those two together?
I'm really glad you're asking that, because what it does is an empowering way of asking the question. So rather than what should I have done that I didn't do, we're asking like, what can I be learning right now, and how can I be prepared for a future which is uncertain? I mean, this is an interesting thing, isn't it? Nothing's certain anyway.
Yes.
This just proves it to us.
Yes.
So I'm going to use little words I'll use 3 words which is purpose. Stay true to your purpose. Then the second word is pivot, but do it strategically. And then the third word is protect your profits. And so that's whether you're a business owner or whether you're a family. So it's a little ironic that I say stay true to your purpose first. It's kind of what you said, Agnes. It's like we have to go spiritual first. Otherwise, we're the people who are in our reptilian brain fighting with someone over paper products.
Yes.
And so staying true to purpose means whatever your religious or spiritual practice is, ironically, more now, not less. Like, you don't need to be more crazy active in your mind. You actually need to have a calmer mind. So I would say whatever, if you can read or you can walk, use an app for meditation, music, reading, prayer partners, vision groups, whatever you have spiritually, tune in to what you already believe is true, especially the piece about we are more than this. Because
Yes.
as human beings, our bodies get ill and then they recover, and then they get ill and they recover, until, for our experiences, bodies will pass away.
Yes.
These things happen. Economies, holy moly, they come and they go. And for us individually, who hasn't been through, it's like, yeah, in 2004, everybody was buying residential real estate, and, using leverage from our own house to buy more properties. And, we did that. And if you look back now, you wouldn't have done that. So things happen, right? And they come up and they go. But so you just kind of tune into, I am more than this, something greater. The higher power is greater. Stay true to that. And that will make you also act from your values. So whatever you're doing right now, act from your values. If you have a value of being a giver, then a tool I would say is, ironically, don't stop giving now. So if you give financially, like you're a tither, keep giving. Even if you're giving 0.1%, give from whatever comes in. If you have a generous heart, make sure, if you have enough food, does the neighbor next door need a can of soup? I mean, I like things like that, just to be in your own values. If you're a person who works hard and there was a gig you used to have that you'd grown out of, but you're willing to do it now, and maybe you could get some part-time work, like stay true to your values, stay true to your strengths. Just that will keep you in high integrity.
Yes. Yes. There's a few things. I was looking back at some of your videos, and you say that in a few times in your public speaking events about when dealing with money is almost like you have to treat it and bless it like you would everything else material, like our food and our and nurture. We do that a lot. It's interesting, the relationship that we sometimes have with money, that we do treat it as a material, but then the other side is when you give and you give and you give, it automatically is going to come back to you. I'm saying,
yes, absolutely. You know what you've just described is circulation, which anything to be healthy, it means there's giving and receiving. A body that's healthy has good circulation. A relationship has give and take. Breathing that's nice and healthy, it's like good inspiration, respiration has good circulation. I'm really glad you brought that up. If we think of money as inherently it's neutral and we put the meaning on it, but the money's a form of communication and transaction. And it's really important to be a generous giver. And I'd also say right now, be a gracious receiver. So if you were furloughed from a job and you're working for a small business and they couldn't give you much, but they give some symbolic amount as a bonus now, I would say be receptive. Like if you've got a landlord or a vendor or a supplier that can give you a 3-month deferral, say thank you. And I'm not saying don't ask for what you're worth, because I'm about to tell you, go get every single penny of support that you can. But in terms of your energetic, be a receptive person.
Yes.
Good. Well, then pivot. So the pivot piece is, I think this one is almost as important as, for years, the financial people would tell you to have 1 to 3 to 6 months of your basic living expenses in some beautiful little liquid savings account that you can get to in an emergency, like a viral pandemic.
Right.
So either you had that or you didn't. If you did have that and you're using it, stop worrying about it. Be grateful that you have it. If you need to go into your short-term savings to pay for living expenses, do it, and then don't worry. You'll replenish it. Okay. If you didn't have that savings, you may need to pivot and think about, should I take money out of other kinds of savings? I would say go to your retirement type savings as a last resort. Do as little as you can on credit cards as you can. And think, I know this might sound counterintuitive, but as you pivot, think about how you can continue to make money doing what you've already done, or how can you make money doing something new or slightly different. So many people, like I know a lady who owns a studio where she's selling gift cards for the future, saying to her clients, we can't have the spa open for massage now, but we want to be there for you in the fall. Can you buy a gift card now? Yes. So similarly, if you offer any kind of service, if there's a way you can say to your clients, I'll give a savings if you buy ahead for the future. Or if you've done design work, or you've done project work, or you've got some kind of skill that you've mostly done in an office for someone, could you do it on a temporary basis? Could you be a tutor if you've been a teacher? Mm-hmm. Could you go on Upwork or one of the other places and get some kind of transcription work or homework or other kind of work that
Yes.
you could do. I mean, there's something about it's not a bad thing, even for super mystical people.
Yes.
It's not a bad thing to be like, I would do whatever it took.
Yes.
So there's kind of like, you got to be like, if I had to, I'd go fill in the blank.
Yes.
I know. What's your reaction to that idea of pivoting?
I actually love it. It was, I've been thinking about this for the last 2 weeks for myself, kind of going inner. I'm kind of like a busy bee all the time. And I've never actually had the time to sit back and say, you know what are the areas of, for example, my podcast? I've never saw my podcast as a way of making money.
Mm-hmm.
But then when all this came down, and I love my job. I have a very secure, hopefully, secure full-time job that I absolutely love. But it made me think, like, where else can I make or profit from money?
Yeah.
And so it actually made me go inner and do some writing and trying to figure out, some goals that I want to work on myself and the business in the next couple of months that will bring that revenue in. So that way I will have a second income in case something happens.
Exactly. That kind of creativity, you can see how it's also like you going inward. When we go in, there's always more answers. So that's a really beautiful thing. This is making us in many ways get more real. Like, well, the stuff I offer, because everything we offer that makes money in some way, the reason it makes money is that someone wants to buy it. And the reason someone wants to buy it is actually a very elevated thing.
Mm-hmm.
They have a problem that they know they have. You have a solution. They're willing to pay money for it.
Yes.
And even esoteric personal growth, spiritual things solve a problem. So so snips from a podcast that are tips that people can use could be very valuable to individuals who want to purchase them. But ultimately it could be you find a sponsor who would love to advertise because your podcast reaches their target market. I mean, they're just, the more that we all think about now more than ever, what is the result I get for people and why is that valuable? It's a really beautiful thing.
It is. And, sometimes I think if this was a spiritual call to make people sit back and go inward.
One of the teachers that Mark and I started with, Dr. Michael Beckwith, I heard that he recently said, don't let a good crisis go to waste. Don't emerge from this being the same person you were when you went in.
Amen.
And isn't that good? It's like, just like, let's make sure, like, and I've been thinking about that with identity, like, who am I being? Because I'm sort of always, I'm with you on, I'll be busy and the last day of my life, I'm going to be like, oh, we've got this, we've got that. But who do I be? All right. I want to make sure I get to protect your profit. So this is the third. So this is the place where I'm going to say like, oh yes, we got to get a little bit practical. So the very first financial resilience piece is do stabilize your household 30, 60, 90 days. And often the best way to do that is just assure your housing first, then food, and then the people that need to be stabilized. So housing, food, medicine. And, once you can cover those things, whether it's from short-term savings, it's from, another kind of savings, whether it's from the lowest interest credit card thing you could possibly find, a negotiation with whatever, like go housing, food, medicine, people right in there. And then you want to look for, depending on whether you are a solopreneur or a business owner or you have some service to offer, is how can you complete your current work, even if you have to do some of it virtually, or like complete current projects and see what you can in terms of increasing or establishing some other kind of income. Then you go to income, other kinds of income, and then you go to expenses. So it's like, don't just go to scrimping, because sometimes people think, well, I'll just scrimp, but we never scrimp our way to wealth. It's good to be smart about expenses, but they're not going to make you rich. So you want to get like stable, see what you can about bringing more money in, and then go to expenses. And with the expenses, it's ironic, but you start with the big stuff first. So is there, an office lease that you can put on hold? That, do you rent space that you could put on hold? Is there a second car you've been meaning to sell that you could sell? Are there services you're paying for that you could put on hold? Like, do bigger things first rather than ordering a tall instead of a venti. Whereas that can be helpful, it's just, it almost is like the thinking's too small for most people.
Yes, yes. And I like all those ideas that you just gave out as well. There's something that you actually do on your page that I really like. And you mentioned this tool that you do at one of the events with Mark, which was Money Mondays and
Yeah.
Faithful Fridays.
Yes.
How can we apply those two as another tool for what's going on right now in the world?
Well, that's a great class. I'm glad you asked that. That was, so Money Monday and Faithful Friday are what are called wealth practices. They're weekly money practices. And Money Monday is somewhere between 10 and 30 minutes on Monday where you focus, you give your attention to your money. So Mondays are the masculine, where you're giving, it's about action and focus. So on Mondays, that's your time to look at your money for the week. Look at if you have a business, look at your business reports. If you're running a family or a household, look at your bank accounts and give thanks for the money that's come to you. Either complete your tithing from the weekend or plan your giving going forward. Look for the bills that need to be paid, review the money decisions you need to make. And then on Mondays, what are the 2 to 3 actions this week that are going to move my money goals forward? So you can imagine, Agnes, after you've done that, you've thought about your money purpose and you've given all that attention, like what would that do for you on Mondays?
On Mondays, to set intentions specific to my podcast, you mean?
Or just to your, especially like if you were doing it for your podcast, like what would it be for you to say, like, what are the money goals for my podcast? And I'm going to think about that on Monday. Like, how would that set you up for the week?
I would say, well, you gave me a great idea, which was about finding a sponsor. So I would make that my Monday goal, is to write down maybe a few sponsors here in the Valley that we have the same values. So that would be the number one that I can think of right now on top of my head.
Yeah. And you can just feel how it's like, oh, I got an idea. So
I got excited.
I know, it's exciting. So on Mondays would be your time to be like, I'm going to get focused. I'm going to work on this on Tuesday morning. I'm going to block out the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little research. So it's like that Monday. So Money Monday is when you look at your money, you think about your purpose and you get focused. And then on Friday, it's don't skip or skimp on the Faithful Friday, because Faithful Friday is the feminine. And that's so important. That's on Fridays is when you do your gratitudes about your money. So you look back over the week and you say, how did the divine support me? What inspiration did I get from an unusual place? Or, what was nourishing to me? And then you also say, how are my money goals coming true? So for example, if you're a person, and I recommend everyone should think about it if it applies to you, if you applied for unemployment, or if the Small Business Association loan or the Payroll Protection Act, even if you're a solopreneur and you pay yourself, you can qualify for payroll protection. Like, let's say you looked at that stuff during the week. On Fridays, you'd be like, I am so grateful that one of my money goals, which was to take care of my family, was moved forward because I spent 2 hours talking with a banker, filling out some forms, and I moved things forward. And so on Friday, you do all this gratitude work. And what that means is you can feel satisfied and you can pause and stop. Now, in our world now, with people at home, and it's a little weird, and weekends and weekdays aren't quite as distinct. Right. but still, the dynamic of Money Monday and Faithful Friday gives you that action and then awareness coming together to have you experience wealth.
Okay, that's beautiful. I love it. I have one more question in regards to money before we move on with some of the services that you provide here with your business. And so with all that being said that we discussed, how can we release any money blocks that we are not aware of? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would say it's a little bit funny, but start with going back to your original family of origin. And one of the ways to become aware, it's hard to get rid of a block if you don't know it's there. And a lot of us sometimes are unconscious, and it's not because we're bad or we're not working hard. It's like, that's just the nature of blocks sometimes. So one of the ways to bring them to awareness, look back on your family life, and you'll notice that most people, we are unconsciously replicating or rebelling against the money modeling of our past. So if you think about whatever, so remember I said about my family, like in some ways there was some stuff about my family that was very functional, but there was also kind of a, like sort of a nervousness about spending, right? That was in my family.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll notice I replicate that. Like, I'm like, I don't like when something comes up, it's like, I'm not, it's not quite my category. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about spending that. And then there are times when I rebel against it and I am like a free spender, just crazy. And sometimes I'm doing that, not even in my own desire or wisdom, but just because I've got like modeling from the past that's operating. So that would be like a place to start, is going like, am I just carrying out a family story that isn't even mine? And once you bring that up, you can have more choice when you're more aware of maybe what a family story is.
Yes. That you just hit the nail on the head for me, because out of all this, one of my takeaways, and I was telling my husband the other day, when I was young, we didn't have enough. And so when I got older and, had a job, I buy more stuff just because I didn't have it then. So I feel the need that I need to buy 5 cans when there's just my husband and I.
Yeah.
And so I told him after this, I said, I'm going to cut that out.
Yeah.
Cut that out because I don't need all of that. So that was one of the self-awareness for me in regards to this whole crisis.
That's a very beautiful thing, because it also, like, there's a spiritual maturity in that, because the reason we do things that are sort of unconscious is we are trying to fill a hole that couldn't be filled. Like if we're scared as a kid that we won't have enough,
yes,
that's a protective mechanism that now you're going to buy some extra. I mean, just thinking about it's a very beautiful thing,
yes.
right? But it's also, you are a free, liberated today woman who can choose to do something different. And when you choose to do something different, that past memory gets loved, but all that energy associated with it gets brought into the present moment.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's, you talked about like the hidden gifts of being forced to like look at ourselves and stop our normal thing. There's a lot that's going around now that I think is useful, where it's like, if you're inconvenienced, think about the person who does not have shelter.
Yes.
If you are annoyed with your spouse or housemates, think about the person who's alone. Like there's so much, like it's going to have us all be a little bit more, I am my brother and sister's keeper, in a way that I think is going to grow us up spiritually for more maturity and kindness and caring.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. Actually, not to get off topic, but yesterday, like the whole world was doing a meditation for 20 minutes. Did you hear about that?
Yes, in the evening, yes.
Yes.
The light. Yeah,
I did it. I did that meditation yesterday for 20 minutes, and I try to meditate often. The energy that flowed in that 20-minute span was amazing.
I'm so glad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a shift. There's something happening.
Yes. There really is. And I think the things like, the things we think are secure and predictable never were, but now we get to experience it more vividly.
Yes. So yes, let's talk about your programs and coaching services that you offer.
Yes, indeed. For those that are listening. So the best way to get in touch with me is to go to themoneykeys.com. So TheMoneyKeys.com. And there you can get a complimentary Money's Myths kit, which will give you a video. You'll get to see my haircut from a couple of years ago. You'll see a video, and you'll see some audio tools and some other things that give you a full range about the background of spirituality and money. So The Money Keys. And then that way you'll also be part of my email family, and you'll be able to hear about upcoming events. And there at The Money Keys, you'll also see my main books, which is the original classic book, The Money Keys, is for those who really want to go deep into the spiritual principles. That's a good classic read. It's like read a chapter, there's exercises in there. And then there's also my shorter book called Grow Yourself, Grow Your Wealth. And that has the Wealth Rituals, Money Monday, and Faithful Friday that Agnes had us talk about here today. So
Yes.
if you want to buy the books on Amazon or there at the website, you certainly can. And then I am in a collaboration with a wonderful guy named Robert Martinez, and he and I are putting final touches on a interesting self-study program called Money Momentum Mastery for business owners. And so
Nice.
if you get in touch with me through the Money Keys website, you can definitely learn more about that. And then Facebook, it's the Money Keys. And on Twitter, it's Karen Russo Money.
Okay. I just got the Money Keys book, so I'm reading that now. So I can't wait to finish it. And so are there any other books that you might recommend in the areas of our topic today?
Yes. I think a really beautiful book for spiritual resilience is a classic by Dr. Ernest Holmes, which is the founder of the Science of Mind. That's where I'm an ordained minister. It's called This Thing Called You. So Ernest Holmes, This Thing Called You, is a love letter from life to you. And it's written as like, you are a child of the universe. You are just as much a part of it as the sun, the moon, the stars. So it's like, and it's short and it's like easy to read. So it's the kind of like, that's a very inspiring book for today. And then for financial resilience, I think, there's many good books. Which is one that I feel is kind of the right one? I kind of feel like I'm going to give another classic, which is Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth. So he is a metaphysical minister that the 20th century, and just wrote really simply and clearly about, supply is God, is our money. So Eric Butterworth. And then I think the final thing I would say, who else would I say is a good inspiring? Those are kind of the ones that come to mind for right now.
Thank you. They sound great. So I'll put them on the show notes as well.
Oh, great.
Yes. I know you mentioned your current seminars, I guess, with you said Martinez?
Yes, with Robert Martinez.
Yeah, Martinez.
Yes.
What else are you working on? Any other projects after we get out of this quarantine?
After we get out of all this. Yeah, so, it's so interesting is I'm going into, kind of like the legacy. I'm so glad that you invited me to come on and talk. And I'm kind of going into legacy mode in some ways. I'm still active speaking and teaching, but I'm moving my content into like self-study programs. And, I'm kind of coaching within other people's programs, and I'm making sure my content's going to last, after I am on a meditation cushion for hours and hours every day. And, so I'm moving into taking my Money Keys content and making sure it's available in a variety of ways. And then no one will be shocked to hear this. Here it comes. But I am getting more and more politically active.
Really?
So I can no longer I just can't sit back and be like, we all need to improve our personal economic, we just need to work harder and smarter and have better, affirmations in order to make more money. It's like, I look around, I'm like, this world has to be more fair and just.
Yes.
So I'm working on a campaign of a congressional candidate that's here in Arizona that I'm very excited about. She's got just a really smart approach and person I can really believe in. So that's the kind of thing that's got me going. So you're gonna, you'll see if you see me on Twitter, it's a little more political, and
I love it.
Yes, kind of, where I fit on the spectrum. But that's what's got me interested. I think all of us in personal growth, we have to, personal growth, spiritual growth is like, we need to make our voices heard. Now, it doesn't mean everyone has to get involved in government or politics per se, but we need to make our voices heard out in the world. Like, yes. I think I'm loving what Dr. William Barber is bringing forward. He's got a voice about morality that has to do with economics. I think is really beautiful.
Awesome. Well, I've been in public services for 25 years. Local government, state government, like that's my life. I love it. So I'm super excited to hear that you're going to kind of venture that way. That's awesome.
Well, I just so appreciate you inviting me to this. It's been a great honor to get to know you a little bit more to share this message.
Yes. Is there anything else that you would like to add or discuss that perhaps we didn't touch on today?
I would just say you matter. Every person who's listening to this, the fact that you care and you care about your health and your family and your community, it really matters.
Yes. And what is the best way for our listeners to contact you?
I would say go to themoneykeys.com or just email me directly at Karen@themoneykeys.com.
Awesome. Thank you again. It was an honor to see you again.
Yes.
And hopefully won't be the last.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Agnes.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Alrighty, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Please visit the website at www.leveluptribes.com. And please subscribe to the podcast and share with your family and friends. Be sure to tune in to our next episode. Catch you all next time, my beloved tribes.